and welcome to People in Power. I'm Summer El-Shahat. Assam, a northern state of India, is mostly known for its multi-flavoured Assam tea. In fact, it produces a quarter of the world's tea and half of India's. What's not so well known is that since 1979, an independence struggle has been raging between the United Liberation Front of Assam, the ULFA, and the Indian government. 18,000 lives have been lost. 40% of India's water and 30% of her oil also comes from Assam, and that's part of the problem. Many claim that the money earned from these resources goes to India and not to them. For example, 80% of its oil revenue is taken by the Indian federal government. Assam is also surrounded by Bangladesh, Bhutan, China, Myanmar and Nepal, giving rise to 240 different ethnic groups. This makes for a complex and explosive situation. Please be aware that this film contains some graphic scenes that could disturb some viewers.
Tea has grown in Assam since the 1840s, when the British Raj arrived and initiated all the major tea plantations. Until then, Assam was not part of India. Now, many of these old tea estates are made poorer by insurgent groups extorting money. But they still manage to produce over half of India's tea. Who benefits from Assam's natural resources is only one of the issues behind the conflict.
If we look at Assam, it's to me a frontier. And connection of this region with India through a small corridor, it is about just 20 kilometers in wide. More than 95% border is international border. So the society that evolved here over the years carry both the characteristics of great Chinese civilization, Burmese civilization, and Indian civilization.
These bordering countries are poor, and many illegal immigrants cross into India through the northeast and Assam. The consequent loss of cultural identity is one of the issues fought for.
Out of 26 million population, we have 3 million unemployed people here. And unemployment problem is a serious problem because those who are not finding employment here, many of them are joining these insurgent groups, because insurgent groups also pay them money.
There are thought to be over 30 rebel groups in Assam. The main one is the United Liberation Front of Assam, ULFA, formed in 1979. A recent increase in military raids on camps has forced ULFA Commander-in-Chief Pares Barua over the border into Bangladesh. So he wouldn't give an interview. He did give us this statement.
ULFA stands for an independent Assam, a social system based on justice, equitable distribution of wealth, guaranteed human and democratic rights.
This building in Rongor, Sibsagar, is where it all began. 7 young men came together in 1979 to make a pledge for independence and form ULFA. Young men with high ideals and no knowledge then that they would still be fighting 28 years later. At first, they hoped for a peaceful solution, but when the government reneged on promises to resolve the illegal immigrant issue, they took up arms. In 1989, the Indian Army was sent into Assam and has been there ever since. Over the last 28 years, a succession of killings and destruction have worn the people down, but spirits were lifted when the Indian National Games came to Assam's capital Guwahati in February 2007. ULFA lifted their ban on the Games, promising no violent attacks in the capital for the duration. But still, security was high, 4 times normal, with 4,000 troops deployed and sharpshooters in the hills. You don't have to go far to meet someone who's been directly affected by the conflict. Inspector General Malik was in charge of security.
And no rest, nothing, 2 hours sleep and nothing. While belonging to Assam cadre, I was over here for about 12 years. Then my wife was killed by the ULFA extremists. So they thought that I am also traveling in the car. So they also driver, then security man, my wife, My wife got about, say, 30 bullets on the head and other things. There was no head. Then my 2 children were injured. Maybe a personal loss, but after all, if everyone runs away.
Many saw the Games as a sign that the Indian government is changing its attitude to Assam. The government seemed reluctant to give an interview, but eventually the Chief Minister agreed to comment. It was a long drive up a heavily guarded road. Did he agree that Assam resources are bleeding out of the state?
We are getting much more compared to what our resources are. We are getting a lot of money even for the railways, we are getting money even for health-wise, even for the rural development also. They are conflicting not only government of India, they are conflicting with us also. Because they are asking for sovereign Assam. Sovereign Assam means independent of Assam. See, government of India, yes, they can exceed any other demands except independent of Assam.
The government ran a referendum in 2006 and the results were conclusively against sovereignty. But many, like human rights organization MAS, felt it had not been conducted in accordance with international regulations.
They published the result of their referendum saying that 95% of people is against the independent Assam. But the whole local media or people, they refused to accept their verdict because it was not done properly. Here where army operations are going on, where one people, if he publicly say or write that he support independent Assam, then he can be arrested under Unlawful Activity Act, being a supporter of ULFA or being a anti-nationalist, anti-Indian.
Does the Chief Minister think it's time for another referendum?
Elections are the referendums.
When the rebel groups took to camps in the 1980s and 90s, they can never have imagined how long they'd be there. Although it's claimed that Commander-in-Chief Porras Barua is now a rich man, most insurgents lead meager lives. "7,500 have surrendered over the years, sometimes because they're starving.
Well, they are a highly beleaguered lot. They have trekked from their location in Bhutan for about 5 days without food and water. They somehow managed to trickle into Indian territory where the operations are on, and they have trekked all the way from there. It's basically to save their own lives more than anything else. They said that more will follow.
Vice Chairman of ULFA, Prodip Gogoi, did not surrender but was captured in 1998. He spent almost 10 years in prison and makes regular appearances at the court.
I am the founder member of the United Liberation Front of Assam. We have a core issue. We demanded to the central government that we want sovereignty for ourselves, for our own survival. We have full support from the common people, from various sections of the society, and still the central government like to delay this process.
Not all would agree that the people want independence.
I think the insurgent groups have failed to take people into confidence. I think people are not with them. They have no mandate from the population to raise a violence against the state and against the people. And I must tell you, Indian state is a very powerful state. So someone is fighting Indian state, they cannot fight Indian state. Indian state also has failed to resolve all these ethnic conflicts. And in the process of this conflict, ordinary people are suffering a lot.
After the break, we continue our report into Assam and its independence struggle.